Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Justin Sarachik, and you are watching the first episode of That's Interesting. Tell me more. I've probably done over 500 interviews in my career, but this one is one of the most exciting for me because, as you could see behind me, and if you know me, I really like Sonic the Hedgehog a lot, but there's someone in front of me right now who might like him even more, and that is the lead writer of current IDW Sonic series and former Archie Comics comic series runner Ian Flynn. Ian Flynn, here's my audience of one, and here's the applause. Man, it's so good to speak to you. I know you've been a part of a lot of people's lives for over 15 years, just doing
Yeah.
something as simple as like, I like comic books, so let's make this a career. So I'm really happy to be speaking to you right now, and thanks for giving this Sonic fan a shot.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So I want to the first thing I definitely want to ask you is, when did you know that you wanted to be a comic book writer, and what was the first comic or series that you saw and you were like, yeah, this is it, this is what I want.
I don't think there was ever like a particular moment where I had this epiphany of, yes, this is my calling. I've
Right.
always enjoyed writing stories and telling stories. Uh, my dad let me mess around on his old electric typewriter when all I was doing was just, banging out letters on the page. But by dingy, I was writing in my own mind. And it's always just been something that I did. Uh, we also always had comics in the house. I never really followed books too closely for a while. It was just like
Mhm.
whatever I got my hands on, I would read it. So,
Right.
your Spider Man, your Batman, a little bit of Thundercats, a little bit of Archie, Get Along Gang, if anybody's old enough to remember that one. And when I got to university, it was, I was just trying to figure out what I was doing with myself.
Yeah.
And I was pursuing my English degree. And I figured, well, I like comics, I like writing. I'm going to take a shot, see if I can write my favorite book, which was Sonic. How
Mhm.
hard can it be to break into the industry, right?
Right. Right. It's it's just comic books.
Right. So that in and of itself was a learning experience, but I got my big lucky break right before I graduated. I took advantage of it and been doing it ever since.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know, I'm sure that you grew up and you made your own comic books. Like when you were a kid, and you'd make all the squares and everything. I had some Sonic comics that I made that a teacher threw out at lunchtime one time when I was in fourth
Oh,
grade. Yeah, and you can't recapture the magic of the first time you make it. But I know you had the other M series, right? Which
ooh,
was kind of your. I did a dive on the internet and I found some pages of it. I took a look, but
oh no.
that I won't judge you for it because it was much better than the ones I did in fourth grade. But but was that kind of the, like, the example that you kind of pitched to Archie when you came in, or did you have other things that were
Oh
there?
no, 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 no. I tried to bury that deep. That was a lot of teenage angst and learning given form. Uh, Learning experience. We all grow. We
Yeah.
all have our awkward teen years, but oi, no, 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 no. That was nowhere near the professional pitch. Um, what I pitched was what they tell you not to do. Were
Right.
improvised scripts based on the existing material
Mhm.
and sent them unsolicited, which is a big no-no, especially now. There's a lot of legal repercussions that could come from that.
Yeah.
But I just happened to catch the editor at the right place at the right time. He happened to open up my submission that year because I was doing it year after year after year, hoping to get a response. And he was very big into bringing in new talent, and he decided to take a chance on me. And I'm so very glad he did.
Yeah. That's amazing. And I just remember, like, just getting that Sonic 1 with my Sega Genesis, and then I remember I went to work with my dad one day, and he's like, "Here's a few bucks, walk to the store and go grab something." And I saw, I believe it was issue 35 of the Sonic comics, and it was one where he was like, he's got something with different masks. He got a bunch of rings, and then these masks came out, and
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
I don't remember exactly the details of it, but like that was that first moment for me. So for you, what was that moment that you like really liked Sonic, and you were like, I want to make this comic book?
It was kind of twofold. Once was because the first book I really started reading was X-Men in
Hmm.
the early '90s, around the time Executioner Song kind of took off, and there was a shipping delay for some reason amongst the major publishers for like 2 or 3 months. So I bought a Sonic comic in retaliation for them not giving me the product I wanted. I was a dumb kid. And it was the original Knuckles miniseries #1.
Okay.
No idea who these characters were. I had no idea what was going on, but darn it, it was cool and I wanted to read more of it. And then I think it got hit by the same publication delay, so I had to back order the final two parts later. And then in the middle grades, my best friend he was huge into Sonic, more than I was. And he gave me his issue of, say, Sonic 42. The cover itself is like all white, and you have Sonic and Jeffrey and Sally kind of being consumed by this white void. And I remember reading the issue and having no idea what was going on. The story made absolutely zero sense to me. Who are these characters? What is going on with these weird time loops within a single story? I can't make heads or tails of this. And I was hooked. Something about it was engaging enough that I'm like, okay, well, I want to know what happened. The little editorial boxes here
Yeah.
say, go back to this issue to get reference. All right, I'll go back and find those issues. Well, those say, look at these previous issues to get even more context. Well, I'll buy those. Oh no, I've gone and bought the back catalog. Now I'm invested. Now I want to see where this is going. And I stuck with it ever since.
Yeah, is that maybe I'm just rusty with comic books, but is that a common thing to have like the source material for you to go back? Because I always remember that from the Sonic comics. Like this happened in, book 37 or something like that.
It was more in vogue in the '90s,
Hmm.
um, possibly before, and it kind of fell by the wayside. It wasn't. It kind of like how thought balloons aren't used as much anymore. It was just
Yeah.
a marketing tactic that isn't particularly used as much. I think it's brilliant myself, as long as you don't go overboard with it. If you get
Yeah.
too reference heavy, then it looks like you're writing a thesis. But
Yeah.
I feel like it's a very easy way to tell the reader there is a continuing narrative and there is a reason to be invested. We are building something here. You can go back real quick, fill in the gaps, and get hooked like I did.
Yeah, and then you kind of got latched on at a good time because then you had that the end game saga, right? It's like 48, 49,
Mhm,
and 50. Robotnik gets killed. Yeah, this is just bringing back
mhm.
great memories for me. But yeah, so eventually you get the call, the email, whatever it is, and says, "Hey, you're the guy for the job. You're the showrunner for Archie Comics Sonic." So what was that feeling like, that moment like when you got that call and you're like, "Wow, like I'm the guy."
It wasn't night and day like that. The
Okay.
actual initial email I got was from the Archie's fan mail account for Sonic, and I thought it was somebody trolling me because I was kind of public about how I was trying to get on the book, and I thought somebody was
Yeah.
just poking fun at me. But I figured, what the heck, I'll give it a read just in case. And sure enough, it was legit. So I did a lot of background work for a few months, gathering information, compiling it, doing a lot of kind of resource clerical work, I guess you'd call it.
Mhm.
And after a while, a buddy of mine who was another fan who turned pro, we put together a pitch package to say this is what we would like to do with the series. We're open to negotiation and editing and working with the other creatives, but this is what we would like to do, and that went over very well. Apparently, it was a very well put together package.
Yeah.
I don't think most of those ideas actually came through in the end, but we tried. And that was about the time the editor said, "Okay, you know what? The We're moving things around. We're shifting some people out, and we want you to be the new lead." And that's how I got started.
Wow, that's crazy. So, did you kind of feel any pressure when you're coming in because you're taking over a series with an established lore, right? There's all these characters in place, all these storylines, and it's like, okay, now you're taking over what somebody else left off. And then was there this pressure to like kind of perform, or did you find your unique voice right away?
Oh, it was absolutely terrifying. I had never written professionally at all, ever on anything. And
Yeah.
here I was thrown into the deep end. And like you said, I was joining a series that had had multiple writers, multiple editors, multiple visions and directions over the years. Never mind the fact that Sonic had changed its own vision from the early 90s to the early aughts. So I really wanted to become part of that legacy, to honor everything
Mhm.
that had come before me, but to contribute to the tapestry myself.
Right.
And all of that combined was a very stressful but also just exhilarating feeling.
Yeah, I know. Mentioning before, most of the interviews I do with musicians and bands, I know sometimes when there's a new lead singer of a band in a very popular band, that lead singer will the new one will try to emulate the style of the one before him or write like the one before him until people get accustomed to this new person. Did you find yourself falling into that?
No, I was kind of learning how to write for comics at the
Hmm.
time.
Yeah.
There's a proper cadence to the way that you can construct a manuscript that's easy for the artist to work with. And just for myself, learning how I like to write books. But it was very definitely my voice. Not to knock anyone who came before, but they had their approaches to the story, and I knew what I wanted to do with the material.
Hmm.
So while I wanted to honor the material itself, I never really wanted to ape anybody else's style.
Right. Okay. So what what was your plan B? Like if you didn't become this comic writer, what were you supposed to do?
Uh, that is an excellent question because I didn't have a plan B. I didn't know what I was going to do. Um, I had looked at possibly getting my teaching license
Hmm.
because I really do like working with kids. I've done it in the past, and I feel like I'm able to connect with folks very easily. But ultimately, I figured I didn't have the proper temperance needed to mold young people. They need someone who is patient and understanding at all times. And I just feel like I am not. Maybe I'm holding teachers to too high a standard, but because I know they work super freaking hard day in,
Yeah.
day out. I just didn't think I had the ability to do that myself. And I didn't want to go through with it and become a lame teacher because I have had lame teachers and I know what they can do to a student's prospects. I didn't want to be a problem. So uh, I figured once I graduated, I would figure out something, maybe go indie and then get like a day job to take care of the rent. But luckily, I didn't ever have to deal with that.
You got to mold minds in a different way, for sure.
Mhm,
S-
mhm.
so
Quite literally, just about every just about every convention I've done, there's been at least one parent who's come up and said my kid was behind in their reading levels, but
wow.
something about Sonic clicked with them, and now they've caught back up, and that validates my existence.
Yeah, you're a teacher. You got to be a teacher in some sort of way. This is something I haven't even thought about in years, and you just saying that. I remember in school, like grade school, they do those reading competitions, like how many books can you read or whatever. So my like shortcut was like, oh, I have a bunch of Sonic comics. I'm gonna read a bunch of my comics, and there was actually, there used to be like Sonic actual books, like 100-page
Hmm.
books like this. I didn't even think of that until now, and I had a couple of them, and I have no idea what happened to them. But yeah, I was always just reading that stuff. So it's funny you don't think about these things, right? Like, oh, how can my comic book change somebody's life, or for me, like, how can my article change somebody's life? And it and it happens, and it feels amazing, and you know why you're doing this, right? It helps give you your purpose. The Archie comics Sonic abruptly ended, which for me, I was trying to catch up, and I was buying the archive editions. So I was like, oh, I'm almost caught
Hmm.
up. And then they they canceled the whole thing. But what was it like getting to start over fresh at IDW? Because now you don't have to work on that established lore, right? You're just starting all over again.
It's it was bittersweet because on the one hand, like you said, there was that freedom. There wasn't any expectation. You just had to follow what the
Hmm.
games had kind of established, which is its own lore, but it's nothing compared to what the old Archie stuff was. And so in that regard, it was kind of exciting. It was, kind of a fun challenge to think of it in a new and different way. On the other hand, it hurt because we had plans, man. We were coming up on two big milestone issues, and we had big story arcs planned coming up to it and going after. And oh well,
And there's no way that you could try to like incorporate anything that would have happened. Even I know the characters are different and stuff, but it just wouldn't work.
no, it's everything was tied too closely to what came before, and to repurpose it for IDW would basically you'd be revising it so much it
Yeah.
wouldn't matter.
Do do you ever get stuck writing for this version of it because of something that happened in the Archie version? Like, oh, people know that Sonic did this, and like, oh wait, no, 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 this is a totally new comic. Like, they don't have that information.
No, no, no. It's because again, with the IDW book, I was following the story set by the games.
Okay,
So already being
okay,
an avid fan of those, and
yeah,
uh, since they are not nearly as convoluted or robust, it's a little easier to pick up from there. There have been occasions where maybe something is a little similar to what came before in the other book, but there's only so many stories that can be told. The
hmm,
comics came up with wizards and aliens and stuff before the games did. That's not saying the games copied the books; it's just they happen to tell similar stories. So it's just how it goes.
so you've also written for other iconic franchises, Ninja Turtles, Star Wars, Mega Man, My Little Pony. I know there's a ton of bronies out there. So how different are these fan bases from each other, and do you have a different mindset when approaching those stories? Is like a totally different like gear in your brain?
There's a different degree of confidence, to be sure. I haven't waded into the fandoms as deeply as Sonic. Sonic is what I grew up
Yeah,
in. I
yeah.
grew up as a Sonic fan. My life has kind of been defined by Sonic. I know that inside and out. My Little Pony is something I've kind of appreciated from afar. Star Wars is something I grew up with, but I was never like too deep into the extended universe. Mega Man was something I could never play because it wasn't good enough, so I had to do a ton of
It's too
research to
hard.
understand about that property. Oh, it's
It's
brutal.
way too hard.
So with each of these properties, they're not something that I lived and breathed, so I have to make sure that I do my due diligence and research them, get into the weeds and try to find the nuances and stuff that I can pick up on that I know hardcore fans will recognize and enjoy. But as someone who is usually kind of novice level myself, I'm trying to write something that I would enjoy within this universe, and I'm assuming others would enjoy as well. It's intimidating because I know those are all very passionate fan bases,
Hmm.
and I want to produce something that they enjoy. So, at the very least, I hope what I produce is something that they recognize I put effort into it. I didn't just,
Yeah.
throw something generic out the door and slap a name on it. I do try, and I think that comes through for most people.
Yeah, yeah. Now, when you're creating comics, just comics in general, not necessarily Sonic, is there a certain template or checklist of what you're looking for in a story? Like, this character needs to do this, every issue needs one of these, we need a resolution here? Or is it kind of like every comic is a new adventure?
It all depends on the scope of the project and what story you're trying to tell. Some universal things are more often than not, you want to try to start with some kind of exciting moment, some kind of action beat. I'd like there to sometimes be like a page of build up, and then you turn it over to page two, and bam, there's the big moment. Kind of lull you in and then surprise you. But when you're relying on people picking it up on a whim per month, sometimes you got to just start off big and go from there. And especially with ongoing series like Sonic, you need to have some kind of hook at the end of each issue to grab that person who just picked it up for that one time or is giving it that one chance. You want them to have a reason to come back.
Right.
Even if it's a very simple stinger, just something to make them go, I wonder how that resolved. Well, I'll pick up one more issue, see how it goes, and just keep doing that month after month after month.
For 200 issues.
Otherwise, the templates are all in the construction, but not the story itself. It's what are you doing with the story? Where are you taking the character? What is your ultimate goal? Is it a single issue story, or is this one part of something larger? It all depends on the story you're trying to tell.
So have you usually storyboarded an entire arc before you get to work, or is that like as you're putting out issues, you're also creating the story?
We always, or I at least with my work, I've always done it the whole arc ahead of time, in part to make sure that Sega or any of the licensors see what the whole goal of the story is, and to get that approved so that you don't get like 2 issues into a 10-part arc and then have to revise everything because, oops, they didn't like that one part. Take as much surprise out of the process as possible. Case in point, when Evan Stanley took over lead duties on the IDW book, since I was still a contributing writer, the two of us worked together to put together our ideas for what season 3 would be, and then submitted that whole year's worth of story ideas to the editorial. We revised those, and then that got sent off to Sega for approval. So once all that was greenlit, the two of us can just go to town because we have the roadmap in front of us.
So in general, how long does it take, to make each issue?
It varies depending on a whole slew of factors. My contribution from the initial springboard through all the revisions and whatnot, I would say probably boils down to like a week's worth of work, but that can be spread over multiple weeks as you wait for things to be translated and submitted and approved and whatnot. It's not like you sit down at the office and do your 9 to 5 and produce a product. It's very much start, stop, wait, hurry up. A whole book probably takes around a month or so to produce, month and a half, 2 months.
Okay, and you've been doing a lot of this work from home, I would imagine now over the last year.
Everything's it's always been from home.
Oh wow!
As long as I have an internet connection, I'm good.
Oh, okay.
I email the scripts. I talk to the editors either by phone or by video conference. I don't really have to go anywhere.
Oh, perfect. So, what would you say is your biggest success so far in comics?
I would say a 15-year, nearly uninterrupted run on a single property is pretty successful. I was talking to the folks who were doing the new Power Rangers line when that was still fairly new, because we were all on a convention panel about licensed books. They said, "How long have you been on this book?" And I think at that point it had been like maybe 10 or 12 years. And they just kind of stared at me like, what kind of strange creature are you maintaining that longevity? It's like, I ain't going to question it. I'm just thankful.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what about on the flip side? Like, what would you say? Do you have any like failures or regrets, in being in this comic industry?
In being in the industry itself, uh, only insofar as when the work dries up, I'm kind of left adrift. I've been able to rely on this for so long. I don't have much of a resume outside of what is comics. So if I need to just get like a simple 9 to 5, I have nothing really to show for it, and I'm competing with everybody who's at the uh, inexperienced level. So that's been a little spooky
Yeah.
when the work has dried up here and there. But thankfully, those have only been momentary lapses.
And I mean, you've had opportunities now to work. I know you did 2 episodes for Sonic Boom, and, there's video
Hmm.
game stuff. So I'm sure that's all through Sega, but, like, do those experiences kind of help you out for other projects that you could eventually do?
Actually, the Boom thing was not through Sega. That was through the showrunner Bill Freeberger. He was contributing to the Sonic Boom tie-in book that Archie was doing at the time, and saw the work I was doing on the second Mega Man Sonic crossover, and said, "Holy crap, this guy is juggling 16 properties and making it coherent. Let's give him a shot on TV." So he gave me my big break on that, and I will forever be thankful for that. Bill, if you're listening, you're an awesome individual. And also, I missed that entirely. Mike, if you're listening, you gave me my first shot in comics, so kudos to you, sir. And I have lost my train of thought. Where was I going with that? Oh, right. Padding resume. Yeah. Those are all. Yeah,
It's all
those all
right, man.
certainly help. They give me the opportunity to point and say, look, I have done this in the past. I know how to do this sort of thing. Let me do that thing for you.
Yeah, I didn't your episodes are in season 2?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't get there yet. I just started the Sonic Boom series with my daughter, and, she's
Okay.
she's really into it, and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna talk to a guy who made 2 of these episodes," and she's like, "That's so cool." So we didn't get there yet. We're almost there, though.
Oh,
Um,
you're in for a treat. Season one's pretty good, but season two overall is just great.
well, of course, because you were there to make something magical.
That's 2 out of 26, man. I can't take credit, really.
What's a series that you'd like to work on, and what's an original series idea that you'd love to create?
I would love the opportunity to work on Star Fox.
Oh,
I
nice.
love that franchise. I want in on that. I know exactly what I want to do. Nintendo, call me. As for original, I have my own original series right now. Check out drogoon.com. That's
Mm,
drogune.com. It's a science fantasy series that is 100% original me. And
awesome.
it's kind of a cathartic exercise amongst everything else.
Is it a story that you've had in your head for years and now you're finally able to make it, or, did it just kinda surface?
It is, it's kind of the evolution of stuff that I've always wanted to do over time. There's a million and one stories that I've wanted to tell that, looking back, were very rough and died on the vine for a reason. This is kind of the, I feel like I've said culmination already, but this is everything that I've worked and learned about kind of coming together. Old ideas revisited in new ways, new ideas in their own right, stuff that I would like to do with other properties that I will never get my hands on
Mm,
done my way. It's just one big exercise of me doing what I want to do.
awesome. Alright, so now I'm gonna hit you with a lightning we'll call this the supersonic round of questions, so these are quick
All
answers.
right, here
Alright,
we go.
most underrated Sonic character and most overrated?
Big the Cat, Shadow the Hedgehog.
Yeah, I agree. Can you beat Sonic 3 with just Tails?
Yes,
Okay, so I haven't done that. Did you ever beat Sonic '06?
yes. It was kind of a joint effort between me, my wife, and my best friend, but by God, we got through it.
I didn't even think it was possible. I didn't think it was possible, so kudos to you.
Oh, it is. You have to swear at enough times, then it
It's
works.
it's painful, right? So s
Oh, excruciating.
so Shadow got his own game. Why can't Knuckles get his own
Mhm.
game? You have a
because
theory?
we live in an unjust world, man. I don't know. He deserves it. He needs his own Metrovania style, man.
Yeah,
Climb, glide, search, find all the hidden gems, make connections with ghosts and his long lost ancestors in some epic time spanning adventure. Give me my Knuckles game.
yeah, not like the Sonic Adventure 2. He's just digging for emeralds the whole time. Although the soundtrack was great.
It was all right.
um,
Oh, sure.
okay, if Knuckles went one on one with a member of the Ninja Turtles, who would win?
Depends on the Ninja Turtle.
Okay, so which
And if it was him and Raphael, it might be a stalemate.
that sounds like a bloodbath, is what it sounds.
Leo, I think he could take Leo. Might be able to take Donnie. Can't take Mikey though. Mikey's the best.
He's the party dude. Okay, do you think it would be awesome to ever see a Supersonic fight against Super Saiyan Goku? Just both
Yeah,
going blonde, just both going blonde and
yeah.
having at it,
Let's do it.
supersonic speed. All right, so
Flying around, hitting each other at Mach 1. Absolutely, dude.
toy animation. Let's make this happen. All right, where is your favorite place to write? Do you have a spot?
If it can ever work out, and it's kind of tricky because my laptop's kind of crappy, but when it's nice weather out, we just sit on. I can sit out on the porch of my place. I've got a decent view of Lake Ontario. Sun's nestled behind a cloud, so it's not shining right in my face, and that's
Nice,
just a great place to work.
awesome, awesome. What is the worst storyline you ever wrote?
This one always surprises people. I think Genesis. It was
Genesis.
a four-part soft reboot story that got collected in hardcover. I feel bad saying that one because that seems to be a big favorite for a lot of people. Uh, Other one that I think everyone would kind of agree on is House of Cards. That was a year-long political drama that got condensed into a two-issue grudge match. It was I had to cut some corners to make it work. I think it functions, but it's not the best example of what I can do.
Okay. A character in any series whose death impacted you in a major way. Could be any comic book, movie, cartoon,
Oh,
whatever.
freaking Auntie out of Honey I Shrunk the Kids. That was tragic.
I was not expecting that. That'll be the I'm sure nobody has ever answered that, for an answer for any sort of question. Okay. What what does the 13-year-old Ian Flynn think about the Ian Flynn of 2021?
He is super impressed by all that I have managed to achieve and where I am now turned out all right. On the other hand, he's wondering, how did you get so fat, dude? You're an inspiration. I'm going to hit the gym.
All right. So that's it. That is the gauntlet of questions. The last thing to you, I know you got the Sonic Encyclopedia coming up. You got the Cosmo series going on. You have New Crusaders. You've done some TV writing. Well, what's coming next? What's on the bucket list of things that is left to accomplish?
Well, Cosmo and Crusaders have wrapped.
They've wrapped.
Um, I've got some stuff coming up with Sonic. Nothing that I can talk about right now, aside from I'm going to be returning to the main book with issue number 41. Or is it issue number 40? Somewhere around there. It's coming up soon. I'm currently working with the Rivals of Aether Studio. They do Rivals of Aether is a Smash Brothers style fighting game. You can find it on
Hmm.
pretty much every platform. Very well received, and I'm their narrative director. We're working on tightening up the story mode for future endeavors, and we've got a comic book series for that coming out soon. Also working on My Little Pony meets Transformers 2.
Whoa.
Not only did it happen once, they're doing it again, and it's been fun contributing to that. And everything else I can't talk about yet. I gotta be super, super secret about it.
Okay. I'll allow it. That's all right. So Everybody watching, again, this is Ian Flynn. You have just watched That's Interesting. Tell me more. Thank you for watching this first episode, and thank you, Ian Flynn, for indulging me and some crazy questions, some legitimate questions.
I've had far worse, sir. You could try harder next time.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
Sure thing. Cheers. You're recording video too?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So everyone watching at home, I assure you, the lighting in here is very bad. I'm not quite this scruffy and horrendous looking in life.